Live on Thursday nights, 7 p.m. It's Garnet and Old. And as usual, we'll just keep saying the same thing over and over again. No inside info, no contacts, no problem. However, we do have a little bit of info tonight because we're going to welcome to the show one Mr. Doug Rohan, who is going to be the co-host for the entire show tonight. We originally planned on just being the special guest, but he's going to co-host the whole show. Ryan Big Papa East has got some work. You know, he's got some other important things. I don't know what could be more important than this, but sometimes in life we do have things that are more important, and that's why Ryan is not here tonight. Doug, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Vince. The reality is that I can't believe how much you two grind to do this every single week. I mean, it's fun to come on periodically, but you have to have consistency for your viewers. You have to have appointment watching for people wanting to tune in and check it out. And that's just the foundational cornerstone of any successful show. And the fact that you're able to do it week in and week out as a passion of yours, as a labor of love, really is a testament to how much you all love Florida State, that you all love sharing your thoughts. And I know, as somebody who is an avid listener, usually on the podcast version while I'm driving to work on Friday or running errands on Saturday, I appreciate that you guys come and do this every week. So we'll give Ryan a break this week, and I'm happy to jump in and help you. And we've got some great stuff to cover tonight that's in my wheelhouse anyway.
Absolutely. And speaking of foundational cornerstones, I want to make sure that we always shout out Captain John Black of Captain Black's Fishing out of Panama City Beach, Florida. He's the guru. And matter of fact, if you follow his page on Facebook, you will see some recent photos of him with the haul of fish that he is catching with his patrons. And so if you are looking for some offshore fishing experiences and really life-changing moments, Captain John Black, who's been a friend of the program for a long time, I would point you there and say, go do that and let him know that Garnet and Old sent you. Doug, have you done any offshore fishing?
I have tried to go twice, and both times the seas did not cooperate, and we have been out on a day that we were not supposed to be out. But that's why I was going to say, if you're in the Panhandle and you've got a 6-year-old boy, a 7-year-old boy, 8-year-old boy, it's not just something you should do. It's a moral obligation. You've got to set aside a day to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, head out there, get on the water while it's glass and flat, and just enjoy that family bonding time. And if you've got a 6-year-old girl, I tried to take both of my girls out. But if you've got a young child, if you've got someone that you want to pour into, you've got to have those memory creating moments. And being out on the water with your family, being out on the water with your children is just one of those things that they're going to remember forever. So schedule that outing, get with Captain Black, make sure you make those memories with your kids.
Couldn't have said it any better, and he's a Nole, so you can't get any better than that. He's a marching chief, so it actually can get a little bit better. You can be with a former or an all-time Nole, all-time chief. I'm going to mention we typically do a goal, and we're going to do a goal here tonight as well. We're looking for 5 super chats or $25, and we're going to give away 5 memberships before the show is done. And if you're looking to know how to do that, it's down in the chat in YouTube. There's a $sign there, and the $sign goes toward making sure we can continue to do this show. So we would appreciate that. And since we are going to have kind of a packed show tonight, and you want to get your question, make sure to get your question up on the screen. That would be the way to do that. Doug, we've got 2 major things that there's a lot more, but we have 2 major things tonight that we want to get to. We want to get to some legal stuff, and we want to get to some baseball stuff. And having you on the show is the perfect opportunity to get to both of those things. And I apologize, by the way, I forgot to put your lead-in music on. We'll do that a little bit later in the show.
That's when I'm a guest. That's only if I'm a guest. Tonight I'm a co-host. I've stepped it up.
Yeah, yeah. So, so let's start first with the legal stuff. And I know, people have probably seen some of this where there was where there were finally some resolutions, at least formally, to some of the legal proceedings.
Right. This week they filed the dismissals of the lawsuit, formally filed the settlements, and it took a while, and we were a little frustrated with how long the process was taking. But understand, we're dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars. We're dealing with intellectual property. We're dealing with contract law. Everything had to be done correctly, and both sides have to exchange their corrections and their changes. And even though we had a legal framework in place a month and a half ago, it was now when everything is reduced to writing. And this lawyer wants to make sure that they're not sneaking something in, and that lawyer wants to make sure that everything's spelled correctly and accurately represents the agreement. So it's not uncommon for it to take some extra time for the contracts to be finalized, signed by all the parties. There's presidents and commissioners that need to be signing this. And then formally, what's done is you dismiss the lawsuits with prejudice. So there were a couple questions on Twitter this week. Why do you need to go through this process? You need, in exchange for all the concessions, and let's be very clear to revisit this issue. The ACC capitulated, that's your SAT word of the day. The ACC gave Florida State virtually everything they asked for, in particular, reducing the exit fee to a specific and very reasonable sum, outlining the time frame and the procedure of when that can occur, and ensuring that the media rights go with the partners that leave through that formal process. And in addition, give Florida State the additional revenue. And to be fair, a reminder, give the highest performing viewership partners the higher revenue share, which means, of course, if you have three TVs in your house, you should turn on all three TVs while you're watching the Florida State game in case you want to go into the other room for some reason. But make sure that those people who are generating the eyeballs in the ACC get a disproportionate share of the revenue. So that's what Florida State wanted, while also waiting its turn for its departure, should it choose to depart. And we'll get into that. But in exchange for that, Florida State dismisses their complaints and their amended complaints with prejudice, meaning those issues are resolved. Those issues have been rectified by this agreement, and Florida State cannot, a year from now or 2 years from now, refile these same issues because they are taken care of, they are resolved, an agreement has been reached.
And that's what the with prejudice means, correct? That they cannot come back and refile
That is correct.
if they're not, happy with, this, or if they're not happy further down the road with the marriage that they're in.
Mhm.
Uh,
There would have
so
to be new and unique
right,
complaints, new and unique issues, because they have foreclosed or resolved all the complaints that were filed in the original paperwork.
right. So I threw the banner up there on the bottom as Doug was, reiterating the massive victory Florida State got in this. To watch Noles all the damn time, on every TV, on every device you have. If your elderly parents aren't technically savvy, get them something. Tune into their box and get their box playing the Noles too, because it's a way that we can support and make sure the Noles, come a little higher up on the totem pole in terms of the revenue that they're getting. Is there anything else legally, Doug? I know you mentioned that there might have been some other stuff maybe going on, or
Mhm.
is that specifically what you wanted to talk about?
Well, that's specific to the legal issue. So now our attention turns to when are we leaving? Everybody wants to be out of the ACC, and they want to be out of the ACC now. And so while you all claim to not have any inside information, I have had some conversations with some people who are decision makers in this arena. And it's very clear to me that when Alford said, we never wanted, to get out necessarily, that was a little bit of a white lie. We all know that that was BS. But at the same time, it leaves open the door for a possibility or a possible scenario wherein we do find ourselves in the ACC for an extended period of time. Because remember, we're all talking about the SEC and the Big Ten contracts coming up in 2030. The ACC contract comes up in 2036. That's what this was all about to begin with. There is a world in which Florida State continues to gain that disproportionate share. There remains a world where the gap between the SEC and Big Ten remains much smaller, though it does remain. And should the ACC grow, expand, perhaps introduce a Notre Dame into the conference, then when that renegotiation comes up in 2036, we would not necessarily be on par, but we'd be much closer to the SEC and Big Ten than where we are today. So there is one possible scenario where Florida State remains in the ACC, much to the chagrin of many of the FSU fans and many of your followers. But that is one possibility. Now, it's more likely that we depart, I believe. That's a belief. That's not a known thing. What is known, and what I have talked to the decision makers about, is that I had articulated on your show, I had said on your show that we would likely be announcing a departure in 2027, actually depart in 2028, because you want to be in the Big Ten and the SEC prior to the 2030 negotiations. And I had cold water splashed on me that that's not going to happen. They may be talking, they may be
Yeah.
behind the scenes making those arrangements in 2027 and 2028, but any move out of the ACC is going to be in conjunction with those 2030, 2031 contract talks. We had looked at Texas and OU. They left 1 year early. So
Hmm.
leaving 1 year early means leaving in 2029. The impression I got was that while that has happened, that's not going to be the scenario here. We would leave in conjunction with the updated contracts in 2030.
Yeah, I don't have any problem, stating that I was wrong about that because I looked at it more from a logistical standpoint, and maybe while we think logistically it makes more sense because you want to be where you're going to be, whatever in terms of marketing and promotion and things like that. You want to have those things in place when that new contract comes about. That's not necessarily how it's going to go. And I'm okay, I'm okay with that. I'm not, it would take a lot for me, Doug. It, I can't look into the future and see 2032 me, still with an ACC patch on my uniform. I do have a problem with that, but I will also say that as long as Florida State is getting what they need in terms of monetary and revenue, um, then and like you said, the gap is still going to be the gap. But as long as the gap doesn't keep growing and growing, growing,
Mhm.
if the gap continues to be, a certain gap, then again, I'll have to acquiesce to those that are making these decisions. And if ACC in 2032 or even longer is going to be, I would assume it's because of the benefit of our university.
And keep in mind that there's no way around it. 2 and 10 was a pothole, and we
Yeah,
just drove this jalopy straight into that pothole and busted two of our tires. We have to demonstrate, hopefully starting with Alabama, that that was an anomaly. Just like everybody was saying that Mike Norvell and the 13-0 season, because there was no bowl game, the 13-0 season was an anomaly. It truly was in the history and the timeline an
sure.
anomaly to the positive. As long as 2 and 10 remains an anomaly to the negative, and we revert to the mean, get to 8-4, get to 9-3, then we will be in a position to reestablish Florida State as a premier program. If we poop the bed again and they get 4 wins next season, then we're not going to have a head coach. We're going to be looking for a new coach. We're going to be out there rebuilding yet again. And we're going to need until 2030 to get all of our ducks
Right.
back in a row. So, I'm praying for and hopeful for an Alabama win to start 1-0. If we start 1-0, I think 9-3 is much more likely than 5-6 or 6-5.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
see us in a position where we can demonstrate week 1, August 30th, that Last year was a fluke. We missed on some evaluations. We missed on some portal transfers. We went out and revamped our coaching staff. If they just get to average, if they get the offense and defensive lines to average, this is a 7 and 8 win team.
Absolutely. And I've had people say to me, it's too bad we're getting Alabama the first game of the season. I don't know.
Mm.
I think it's actually better that we get them the
Mhm.
first game of the season for whatever
Yeah.
in whatever scenario, because
Mhm.
if we end up winning the game, it's a launching pad for the rest of the season. If we end up losing the game, you still have the whole rest of the season,
Mhm.
and you can look at that first game and go, you know what? It's a little too much to ask for a brand new staff, pretty much a brand new roster, to play Alabama, even though they're not the Alabama of old, and expect to win that game. But I'm kind of like you. I think 8-4 is probably where I would put this team. I would not be shocked by 7-5, but I'm thinking more 8-4. And
Mhm.
in a dream scenario, believe it or not, dream scenario is 9-3 for me.
Mhm. So you're going to talk about recruiting later on, and I'm going to be one of those ones that will admit the NIL era has caused me to check out from recruiting.
Hmm.
I no
Yeah.
longer care because the team we have starting in 2025 is going to have what, two position players that are going to return as starters, three
Hmm.
maybe. We have completely revamped the entire team, and nobody has game film on the 2025 Florida State football team. So, to the extent they can put the pieces together in spring practice and in fall camp, getting ready for that season kickoff opener, we're going to be in a superior position to surprise. And that's what we're going to need to do. And if you look at our friends over at the Big Mountain, one of my favorite
Hmm.
crew to follow
Yeah,
on
they're good
Twitter,
guys. Yep.
they put out the preseason top 20 ESPN power index, and asked for people to suggest who was going to finish outside the top 10, which top 10 teams are going to finish outside the poll. And I think 30% of the people that responded listed Alabama as one of their two or three teams that
Right.
should underperform. So if that's the case, that gave me some courage to say it's not just me, the homer, that thinks Gus Malzahn doesn't have the responsibilities of being a head coach now. He can focus on being an offensive coordinator. Herb Hand's going to come in and do what he needs to do with the defense. We've got the right players, and I'm encouraged. I'm feeling a whole lot better today about that Alabama game than I was 6 months ago.
I'm encouraged to, and not, again, I want to make sure it's tempered. I'm
Mhm.
not encouraged to think that, we're going from 13-1 to 2-10 back to 13-1, right? That's not the encouragement. My encouragement is that the the curve may not be like this, but I think it's going to be pretty steep. And we can all, and it's all something we can be proud of, and then hopefully we can look back on 2-10 and be and just remember that as kind of a really, really bad moment.
Look, the bowl game never happened. 2024 never happened. That's what I'm dealing with as a fan.
Ireland happened. We had a great time in Ireland, um, and it was a lot of fun. Except, and the game was pretty
Mhm.
much a good game until the very end.
Let
But
me tell you, as a fan of the 90s, my freshman year was Charlie Ward. My last year of law school was Chris Wanke,
mhm.
attending the majority of those games. There was never a moment that I was more high as a Florida State fan than when we scored the 2-point conversion on the first
That's
drive.
right. That's right.
Because I thought at that moment Darth Norvell was coming for it all. And
Yeah.
then we had to put on a pair of diapers and crawl our way through the rest of the season.
I drowned my sorrows in a bunch of Guinness before I came back to the States with COVID. And it seemed like I've been in a funk the whole rest of the season, but that's all in the past.
Yes.
Um, Before we kick off to the next subject, let me remind people, and I want you to also promote yourself here too, Doug. But this is how you follow the show on X, and how you follow Ryan, who is again not here this evening. And there is my X account as well. Doug is at Rohan Law PC, and Doug, do a quick promo for you.
I appreciate that. Doug Rohan, Rohan Law PC. Please follow me on X at Rohan Law PC. I think I'm a very entertaining follow on X, especially as the season comes up. So check out our page and our position on a variety of things. But if you want to, we have my wife is our director of operations. But right now, because we were talking about some staffing issues, she's up front. So you can talk to the lovely Julia Rohan if you call our office today. But at Rohan Law, we want to be your best friends on your worst day. Sorry, I'm halfway through my bourbon. Rohan Law, we want to be your best friends on your worst day. We handle criminal defense, work accidents, personal injury in Atlanta, Georgia. We've got a huge following here in Atlanta with the Atlanta Seminole Club. We've got lots of opportunities for people who are driving to and from the ACC games to find themselves on the roads of Atlanta, either I 75 or I 95. And we'd like to come alongside you and help you if you find yourself in a problem. I've had so many people from Twitter reach out. It's been a very pleasant ride as we've gone through this litigation exercise to get to know the FSU fans, but more than a handful have called me about a Tennessee car accident or a Mississippi work accident. And while I might not be able to help you, I can certainly guide you to some of my friends. I have a very robust referral network. And at the end of the day, we're here to make sure that all of our Noles are taken care of from a legal standpoint. So if you find yourself with a problem in Georgia, if you find yourself with a serious accident somewhere in the Southeast, call Rohan Law and we'll make sure that you get taken care of.
Yeah, you also might want to be somebody's best friend on their best day too. That could be fun. That could be fun. And just as Doug and I, we've been friends for a long time, shared history in the Chiefs. And but also I did call Doug last year on a thing that was going on in my life, and he helped me out tremendously. And by the way, I don't know if I ever told you, Doug, everything is golden. Everything is golden with that. So, but I appreciate you, Doug, and I know a lot of people out there appreciate you as well. Let's move on to the big topic, the really, really big topic for today. The Noles are already in Corvallis,
Mhm.
and they practiced today, I believe. We were kind of hoping we were kind of hoping against hope that USC would be able to pull one game out of two, and they weren't able to do it. That meant our Noles had to travel to the West Coast. But Doug, you've said this many times on our show. You love football, but baseball is where your heart is. And so it was the perfect opportunity to have you on for this tonight as well. Let's talk about the Noles and their super regional uh, possibilities.
So yes, Oregon State is hosting Florida State because they were the 8 seed and Florida State was the 9 seed. We can have a whole discussion about how the number 2 team in the country, the number 3 team in the country, ends up with a number 9 seed, while there are 4 SEC teams that are listed at the top. But that just validates what we've been talking about for a year and a half, which is the ridiculous SEC bias. With that being said, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And if you want to go on the road to Omaha, because Omaha is not a home game, then you've got to be able to establish yourself. You can't be given the easy path. You can't be given the soft way. I remember back to the first year the NCAA instituted the super regional format. Florida State had its most talented roster ever in the history of Florida State, and Notre Dame showed up into town with 2 co-aces and whooped Florida State at home in Dick Hauser.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that much confidence, but I'm feeling good because between Wes Mendez, Joey Vellini, and uh, I'm drawing a blank, Jamie
Jamie
Arnold,
Arnold.
Jamie Arnold,
Yep.
between those 3 starters, we really have, if you look at the last few weeks of the season, 3 co-aces. Jamie Arnold has not performed as high of a level as he finished off the 2024 season, but he is coming into his own. He has gotten rid of his yips. Look, coming into the season, everybody was talking about Jamie Arnold as the number 1 draft pick. That's a heavy mantle to carry.
Mm-hmm.
That's a heavy burden. Remember, these are college kids. So to come into the season with the expectation, I had a miraculous inning last year that was followed by one pitch away from being back to back miraculous innings.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are unfamiliar with the idea, that's 9 pitches leading to 3 strikeouts in one inning.
Right.
It's
Right.
very rare. It doesn't happen often. Last year, Jamie Arnold pitched a miraculous inning and then went out the next inning and got 8 pitches into a
Right.
9 pitch miraculous inning right after it. He was close, so close to completing something that I think, and I haven't looked this up, so I'm pulling it out of my butt. I don't think any pitcher has ever pulled back to back miraculous innings. That's how dialed in Jamie Arnold was last season. He hasn't been that tight this year, but he's still good. He's still really good. If he can be on full rest, and we'll talk about why that matters, and then you throw in Joey Vellini and Wes Mendez, who have fought back and forth for who is going to outperform Jamie Arnold, we have a chance. The problem is Oregon State, they're clubbers. They mash home runs. Their last 3 games, they outscored their opponents something like 45-6. So the pitching is going to matter. When you get out to Omaha, pitching matters. I went out with my dad one year. I forget what year it was. It was probably like 2016 or 2017. He's a huge Hurricane fan. I'm a huge Knoll fan. We both went into the postseason as top 4 seeds, and we said, let's go. Let's book our trip to Omaha. Neither team made it out to Omaha. But when we were sitting there watching the games, you had your starter with a 2.8 ERA over 70 innings. And then they would come out of the game, and the middle reliever would come in with a .092 ERA. And then they'd bring in the closer who had a .078 ERA with 20 saves on the season. You can't
Right.
get to Omaha without spectacular pitching. And if there's an Achilles heel for Florida State, it's that bullpen. But Joe Charles can be that dude. Joe Charles has the chance to do what a few historical Florida State closers have done, which is they are okay during the season, but the bright lights come on, the pressure comes on of the playoffs, the pressure comes on of Omaha, the pressure of the super regionals comes in, and they dial it in. Joe Charles hasn't given up an earned run in his last 3 starts, or sorry, 3 appearances,
Three
because he's not
appearances.
starting. And he has the chance to continue that. If we can get our offense back on track, if we can get Bailey mashing home runs as a freshman, if you haven't watched a game, please watch. Bailey is a man mountain and has power. And so if they can get into the situations where they can make timely hits, we have the starting pitching, no doubt about that. We have the offense. What is our bullpen going to do?
Yeah, when you're talking about the pitching kind of rounding into form here late in the season, if we can get, late starts, late inning starts with Jamie Arnold, and Mendez went into the 8th inning last time he pitched, and
Unbelievable.
then you don't have to rely so much. You don't have to necessarily twiddle and be worried about the bullpen as much if you're bringing in Joe Charles for an inning and a third, or an
Mhm,
inning and 2/3. Um, I think you're spot on with that, and it's the Jamie Arnold thing with
mhm.
him being, touted as being possibly the number one pick. Um, I could definitely tell early in the season, like there were too many other things on his mind. But I think as the season has gone on, he just it's just baseball, right? It's
Yep.
just baseball. The future's going to happen. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and I'm just going to pitch. And this last outing he had, he was tremendous,
Mhm.
and it's the perfect time to be rounding into form. It's the perfect time for Mendez to have the best outing pretty much he's ever had, and
Yep.
for Joe Charles to, to be a closer, to somebody that you can, as soon as they walk in, they just have that
Mhm,
aura about them, and
mhm,
currently he has that as far as
mhm.
when I watch him take the mound. Now, what do you think about um, Bellini because he was supposed to, or he did start the first game, and
Mhm.
then because of the weather delay. So, what do you think Link is thinking in terms of, who starts when?
I was watching the Wake Up War chant, and I think that they had a really good point that the Miles Bailey Grand Slam in the regionals was the pinnacle, the most important moment for the Florida State team. That rain delay was probably the second most important thing that happened for Florida State, and the reason why was because Bellini was having an off day, and look, that's
Yeah,
baseball. That's why I love this game. Anybody can win any given day. When that pitcher puts the ball in his glove and comes set ready to pitch, you do not know what's going to happen next. That the anticipation, the waiting. When it comes to football, yes, you line up at the line of scrimmage and there's a play that's going to be called, but there's just something magical about that moment right before the pitch that
yeah, it's
comes
one
that
on one.
you don't know what is going to happen next. And if you watch enough sports, enough baseball, you're going to see something that you've never seen before. An
Yeah.
example of that was in I don't think it was the regional, I think it was the last series right before the regionals. We had a tight game. We had a pop fly to the outfield. I forget who it was. It might have been, no, Miles Bailey plays first.
hmm
Our left fielder,
Gage
I forget his
Harrelson.
name.
Oh, the
Yeah.
left fielder.
And
Not Chase Williams. Uh, I can't remember. Keep going.
yeah, and I'm not going to pull it up, but
Nope.
he he pulled the ball in from the fly ball. Runner on third base makes the tag to run home. The runner at second tags up to run to third. They throw the runner out at third before the runner from third makes it
Right.
home. And so because of the force out, I think it was bases loaded. Because of the force out at third, the run home doesn't count.
Correct.
I've been watching baseball for 27 years and I haven't seen that. I
Yeah.
love that. That was just an amazing moment. So all that to say, when we get back to what Florida State can do, Bellini had a very poor outing prior to the rain delay, which is fine. Then he got shut down. He got to take a rest. He is the freshest of the three arms. I personally think that Link is going to throw Bellini first, and that's
hmm
fine because then we get Jamie Arnold on a full week's rest for game two. And
Yeah.
either Jamie Arnold wins and we get to Wes Mendez on game three, or if Jamie Arnold doesn't have a good day and Bellini doesn't do his job, then it's two in barbecue. But
Yeah.
I am satisfied with Bellini going first because we always have Jamie Arnold second. And if Jamie
Yeah.
Arnold is on, that's a W.
Yeah. It's. I think I'm with you on that. I think you. I don't think you throw Jamie. I think you want to give him full rest. And then obviously you can't pitch Wes first because he has even less rest.
Mhm.
So I think it's got to be Bellini. Um, and then if Bellini's not doing well, then you got to take your chances with the bullpen, which you're going to have to do anyway.
And look,
It's
if
at some point.
If Jamie Arnold gives up 7 runs, we're not winning the series anyway.
Right. That's right.
It's not going to happen. So
Yep.
Jamie Arnold needs to get out of the game with 1 or 2 runs given up at most, and both of the other two players need to do their job. And if you can beat Oregon State in Corvallis, then you've got as good a shot as anybody else to win the whole damn thing.
Yeah. Because if you beat them, that means your pitching is really rounding into form. If you win that super regional, it's going to be because of pitching. I don't know that you're going to out hit them.
Look,
So
there's only one winner. You either win it all or your last game ends on a loss. So leave after Corvallis, leave after the first two games in Omaha. To me, it doesn't matter.
yeah,
That's six of one, half dozen of the other. But if we can get through Corvallis, which I'd put at a 47, 48% chance. If
yep,
we can
yep,
get through, I think Corvallis is a bigger challenge than Omaha. Now that you have
yeah,
Vanderbilt and Tennessee out because the SEC were a bunch of frauds, now
exactly.
that we have those two teams out, you have a situation where Florida State can step in. But the number 8 seed is a bigger challenge in Corvallis than anybody we're going to face in Omaha.
Yeah, I think I saw the odds on the super regional that it is the the most the most even odds on that
Really?
super regional of all of them. So I think
I
you
don't I
saying
don't bet.
48. I don't bet either, but I was looking, I'm looking to see who the
Yeah,
favorite is, right? To me, wagering is wasting hard-earned money,
yeah.
but I know a lot of people love it.
No. I
Um,
have degenerate tendencies, so I have enough
yeah,
vices without getting into sports gambling.
but yeah, the vast, the country sees it, the odds makers see it as kind of a pick 'em. And, that's if you'd asked me that 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I'd been like, oh, pick 'em. I'll
Mhm.
take that.
Yeah.
Right. I'll take that.
And for those
So,
for those who haven't been paying attention, if there's any non-animals that are watching, I can report home field matters. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of rowdy Oregon State fans,
mhm.
but the San Francisco Atlanta Seminole Club and the Portland Seminole Club have teamed up, and they've got a bunch of rabble rousers who are making the road trip to Corvallis and plan to have a substantial presence. As I heard today, Corvallis has more visitor requests for tickets than in the history of their hosting regionals and super regionals. So that indicates there are Florida State fans on the West Coast that are making this trip, that are going out there, and let's hope that they are coordinated enough to get some chance in representing the animals out there.
I love to hear that. And I would say it's not surprising. But we are fans. We are alum of a university that has a large following coast to coast. So it's not shocking, but I am happy to hear that for sure. And I know you're not going, right? You and I spoke about that a little bit ago, but you may be, you're not trying to jinx it or anything, but let's just say things go well. You are thinking about possibly going to Omaha.
Uh, mm, I have not discussed this with my wife, and she is in
Oh,
hearing
sorry.
distance. But
Yes.
regardless, she knows my passion and my joy for
Yeah.
Florida State. And there's a reasonable scenario wherein Florida State makes the finals in Omaha, and we may or may not have enough Delta points for me to come up with an
Right, right,
excuse
right.
to make it out there. I did that. It was a great story, and we've got time. I don't think any of your listeners are anxious to get off, so I'll share this. I have had the regionals on my calendar, my personal calendar, for 25 years. It's always on there because I know Florida State historically has a better than average chance to host. It was, I forget what year, and somebody is free to chime in and remind me because I don't have the didactic memory that some of our other Florida State beat writers have. But it was the year that Georgia hosted Florida State as the
Oh,
four
yeah.
seed. We
Mhm.
didn't even expect to make that. That season was so bad. I really didn't think we were going to make the postseason. So Julia planned a cruise, which is going to play into your conversation in just a minute. Julia planned a cruise. I looked at the calendar. It fell with the regionals. And I was like, sure, let's go on a cruise because we're not
There's
going.
no way.
Athens is closer to Atlanta than Tallahassee is. So I spent 3/4 of my cruise, much to my family's chagrin, at the gay bar watching the FSU game because that's where
Right,
they were
right.
watching it. And I and we won. We
Yep,
won the Athens Regional. So we
yep. I remember
came
that.
back on the cruise. I booked my ticket to LSU, and lo and behold, we did what nobody thought we would do, and that is win 2 out of 2 in Alex Box Stadium with
Mhm.
all of the animals and with everybody there. And so I said, "Babe, I'm sorry. I have no choice. I have to go to
The
Omaha for
gods
Mike
are
Martin's." It's
yes.
Mike Martin's final season. So I had the pleasure and joy of making my second trip to Omaha, watching Mike Martin beat Arkansas. It was this last win as the Florida State head coach. And I'm
Mhm.
so glad I got to do that. I had to come back because work obligations and trial calendars and things
Yep.
like that required me to. But yes, there is a scenario
The dog agrees. That's okay. Yeah, the dog agrees. There is a scenario that, depending on how this all plays out, there's a possibility that one Mr. Doug Rohan will make the trip out to Nebraska.
That would be great.
Um,
I would love that
yeah,
opportunity. I think Link can do it. Link will win a championship while
I
he's at
agree.
Florida State. I think he's a generational coach. I don't know if he is going to be here for 42 years like Mike Martin was. I forget what the actual
I don't
total
think that
years
happens
were.
anymore.
It doesn't, but I don't think anybody is going to lure him away. I think he's going to coach here as long as he wants, and he's great. He is a statistician. He is a technician. He wants to bring the best players here. He's very heady. We now have NIL, so the 7.5 scholarship limit that we've had in the past will keep some people from going to the minor leagues, and we'll have them be collegiate players. So I think we're going to have the talent for this foreseeable future. And again, if you haven't been watching Florida State baseball, Miles Bailey is a true freshman. And we haven't even talked about Alex Lodis, who's a finalist for the Golden Spikes Award as
Hmm.
the best player in college baseball. He wasn't on any preseason shortstop watch lists. And we have not only the best shortstop in college baseball, we may have the best player in college baseball playing on Florida State, and he's not the number one draft pick.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of watching the Noles beat the Gators here in Jacksonville on the walk-off for the cycle, the Grand Slam cycle. And Alex is a hometown kid here. He went to the high school my girls went to, and I'll just say that I think he went to UNF first, right? Then
Mhm.
transferred over. Um, I don't want to say it was kind of out of the blue that he's blossomed into like this amazing player that he is, but the growth is substantial. Like obviously he was good enough to be a D1 college player, right?
Mhm.
But just to see his growth and to see what he's been able to do this season has just been a pleasure. And of course, I'm proud
Mhm.
because he's from the hometown school here.
And
Um,
this is something that probably a lot of your followers who are primarily football fans and not baseball fans don't know and don't understand. Dick Howser Stadium is a great stadium. They've done a good job with what they can for a relatively old stadium. They have a what they now call the pitching lab. It's their batting cages. It's due for some upgrades. For those who aren't aware and want to join the boosters, there is a long-term 10-year plan where the IM Fields becomes the new
yep,
Dick Howser Stadium. It's going to be, I'm sure, very similar in style, build, Camden Yards, top of the line, everything. So start contributing now because it takes that long to save up that kind of money. But they have these pitching machines now where they can scout out their opponents, get their pitchers' spin rates, starting typical pitches, frequent pitches. They can program those in to these pitching machines to mimic and mock
right.
exactly what pitches are being thrown down to the angle, arm angle, spin rate, movement, and that opportunity to scientifically replicate what the opponents are doing just sets that team up for success going forward. And then when you layer onto that the Jamie Arnold, the pitching development, the ability to get Ken Dorsey into a premier closer last year, they have the opportunity to show that they can develop the players, that they can prepare them. We have James Tibbs and Cam Smith that are both in Major League now. Let me tell
Hmm.
you, Cam Smith has set the record for the fourth fastest position player
Right,
to get signed and appear in the major leagues.
right.
And that's because of the development Florida State is doing. Link can walk into any living room of any player and convince them that Florida State is the right place to be. The seeds are being sown for utter dominance, 90s style football
Yep,
dominance
yep,
on the baseball field under Link Jarrett. And last year is the perfect example. Remember, 2 years ago we had a losing season. 2 years ago we didn't make the postseason, and then last year we're in Omaha, one BS call from an ump away from beating Tennessee, the eventual
yep.
champions. The reality is that Link is the dude. The baseball team is on fire. We have a very, very tall hill to climb this weekend, but if we can get through Corvallis, a national championship is a legitimate and plausible reality.
Yeah, I love it. Let's talk briefly about the ridiculousness that Link's having to deal with portal people while he's in the playoffs. So they signed a kid out of, oh, I can't remember what the school was now, but he was a big time player that signed with Florida State yesterday, maybe today. And he called Florida State the pinnacle of college baseball, right? So wait, I mean, these are kids saying this stuff. What you're
Mhm.
talking about is not only are people going to say it, they're going to see it. They're going to see it with eventually, you know, Hauser 2.0 being built. By the way, that's going to be amazing, right? Seeing the new Hauser in the IM fields with Doak behind it. It's kind of hard to visualize it, but
Not
man,
for
what
me.
a
I get
beautiful,
goosebumps.
Yeah,
I have
what a
no
beautiful,
trouble.
beautiful thing.
Start your
And
day at Madison Social and waltz
uh,
your way over to the baseball game. I have no trouble envisioning that.
and for a program that has deserved it for a long, long, long time. Um, so anyway,
So to
looking
your
forward
point,
to
you're
this
talking
weekend.
about the transfer portal. I was it was shocking to me in previous years when they would do the draft the week of the Omaha championship games. Like talk about distractions. The
Yeah.
reality is that if your third baseman is sitting there waiting to make a play and all of a sudden his phone rings, hey, you're going to the Padres.
Mm,
What kind of a I can't use
nuts.
the word how bad does that affect you? Now you've got teams dealing with transfer portal where they might lose players. I mean, look, to your point, and I'm glad that's the story on the road is that everybody wants to come to Florida State. But what happens when your fifth starter wants to go and leave to go somewhere else where he's going to be the guy? You're
Yeah.
in Omaha, you're in the super regionals, and you're going to lose a player because he wants to go be the starter at a second tier team somewhere in the NCAA. It's brutal. There
Yeah.
have to be changes made both in baseball and in football for the transfer portal.
Yeah, I can't remember where I read it. I can't remember if it was 247 or Chan or whatever, but they said that they had a hotel room, they had an extra room just for scouting and stuff for the portal right now. While they're in Corvallis, we got to get this solved. We got to get this solved because it's like you can't even finish the project you're working on before, someone's double dipping on your
Yeah,
team.
because
And
Link can't make the phone calls. He doesn't have time to make the phone calls. So
no,
all those
it's
teams, Vanderbilt and Tennessee, are making all the phone calls right now while Link isn't busy preparing for Corvallis.
yeah, it's crazy. We gotta find a way to fix it. Um, So you mentioned a cruise a little bit ago. I'm going to bring this up
Tell
right
us.
now. We're
Let's
we're we're
go.
almost we're almost done with the show here, but Ryan and I talked about this. Well, I've been talking about it a little bit, but Ryan and I brought up on the show last week. I'm going on a cruise this weekend. I'm going to be gone for about a week. So this coming Thursday, Ryan's going to do the show as normal, like you mentioned, Doug. We
Mhm.
try not to miss consistency, consistency.
Tell Ryan
But I'm
I'll
going
be
to
around to be his co-host next week.
Exactly, but we're gonna try to pull me in depending on the
Oh, that's
Wi-Fi,
okay.
but I probably won't be able to co-host. I'll just be guesting. But what we did was, or what I'm going to do is, I've got these little duck tags that I have. Let me put it up here real quick. Give me a moment. I put on a bunch of ducks
Nice.
that I'm putting around the ship, and there's a QR code on the back that takes people to a custom Garnet and Old video that they're going to watch. And the plan is to have any Noles on board, any college football fans on board to join me at the venue to be part of the show on Thursday night, next Thursday night. So if
Mhm.
you're interested in seeing me, because, Doug, you've seen this, but many of our viewers haven't. If you're interested in seeing me with a few drinks in me, that's going to be happening next Thursday, and it's going to be a really good time. By the way, that video that the cruise the cruise goers are going to get to see. We'll make that available to our channel viewers as well. But what's even better than that, Ryan and I, while we were making this video, we have this uncut, unedited version of the video, which is, I think it's ridiculous. And it's just kind of a behind the scenes look that I'm going to make available to the members after the show here tonight. So if you're a member of Garnet and Old, by the way, you do that by going to YouTube and hitting the membership button. If you're a member, once this show is done, I'm going to make that video available to the members. And it's probably about 30, 45 minutes of Ryan and I just screwing up this video over and over and over again. And you'll get kind of a taste of what the end result video is. So that's what's going on next week.
Excellent. I'm very excited for you. I love cruises. We don't go as often as we would like to. They're not cheap, but yeah, cruises are a great way to spend family time as well. Go to
And to
Captain Jack Black
unwind.
first. First, go to Captain
Yes.
Jack Black, but then plan a family cruise.
That's right. Yeah, because cruising to me is like the ultimate vacation because you got everything there for you. You don't have to drive anywhere. So if you have a little bit too much to drink, the only thing you got to worry about is not falling over the side. Otherwise, you can get back to your room. There's gambling there for those that like to partake in that. And the shows are fun too. So be looking forward to that for everybody for next week. Garnet Knoll, the old part, will be on a cruise next week. So, Doug, do you have any final thoughts for the show tonight?
Look, your homework assignments are follow me on Twitter because that's going to make your life better. Make sure you follow Vince. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you go to the Battle's End and start donating $5 a month every month. Just go ahead and put it on the credit card.
Every little
Make
bit.
sure that you have the opportunity to support what Mike Norvell is going to do next and what Link Jarrett is going to do next. Look, the Battle's End supports the baseball team. Jamie Arnold could have gone to the draft last year. Jamie Arnold could have not come back for one more year, but because of people like Ingram Smith and the Battle's End, we're in a position to provide resources to turn that 63rd prospect in the nation, instead of being on AAA Seattle team, driving around on a bus 300 hours a year, to make them come to Florida State and enjoy everything that College Town has to offer. So make sure you're investing in your program. Go to the boosters. Make sure you're contributing to the boosters to give them the opportunity to build the new Dick Hauser 2.0 and get us ready for the post ACC life that Florida State is going to enjoy. And, have a beer and watch Florida State this weekend and enjoy.
Absolutely. Doug, I thank you so much. I'm going to handle Ryan's outro. You're going to do mine. So I'll start with Ryan's. Screw ESPN eternally. Whether they are the four-letter network or the mothership, whatever you want to call them, they've been no friend to Florida State lately. And so screw them.
No inside info, no inside whatever the other part
Send
is, and
send
send
Chiefs all the damn
Chiefs
time.
all the damn time.
Right. No inside info, no context, no problem.
No context, no problem. Send Chiefs all the damn time. Look, we've got Alabama to start off at home. Chiefs are going to be there for that. We want to get Chiefs to all of our away games. We want to get a pep band to travel, and that requires funds, and you all are going to be contributing to that. They have the Great Give each year that comes up. Look out for those emails. You can contribute to Florida State Marching Chiefs that way. But send emails. Remind the boosters, remind the president, remind the athletic department how valuable Chiefs are to the experience. If it's 150 trumpets in the stands blaring out the war chant, then everybody's happy. But we got to make sure that we're out there, whether it's California, whether it's New York, whether it's the middle of Bodunk, South Carolina, and Clemson. We need to make sure that Chiefs get to the games to make the experience as close to a home experience as possible.
You did awesome. I can't say anything else. Go Noles.
Y'all take care. Have a good